Colonel Hologram, this is Solid Suder. I'm in position for the mission. What are your orders?
Solid Suder, your mission is simple. You are to infiltrate the command structure of Voyager at all costs, locate the high-priority target, Seska, and terminate with extreme prejudice.
Seska? But Colonel, she's consistently the only good thing about the show. She practically saved Season 2, all by herself.
Soldier, I don't want to hear any of that thinking for myself bullshit. These orders come from the top, from President Jerry Taylor herself. You will move forward with the mission, and you will terminate the target. Do you understand?
Yes, Colonel.
Suder? Suder? Suder!
Welcome to Voyager, please. A hateful voyage through the Delta Quadrant, back in our traditional formation, located some many miles away from each other. This is Joseph.
Hey there, it's Peter.
And Peter, does it feel good to be back in the swing, rocking those episodes out? How you doing, man?
Feels weird, man. This is the first traditional episode we've done in a while. We had the dual cast for Threshold, and then we had the Season 2 rip before that, so being back in my main broadcast area feels pretty good.
Yeah, same here, man. And nothing quite like some piping hot garbage that we got served up to us nice and fresh, but, garnished with some quality, just to confuse the palate, to start Season 3 off strong, I guess. What did we watch, man?
Season 3, Episode 1, Basics, Part 2.
So there are 3 distinct storylines in this episode, and they don't interact with each other. So I would like to try and tackle them independently, because that way we can kind of explore the performance space a little bit. I want to do that because this is really the episode of 2 distinct storylines of different kinds of quality. You've got the Tom stuff, which is kind of immaterial because there isn't much of it. You have the stuff that happens on Voyager, which is awesome, and then you have the stuff on the planet, which is poop. It's startling to me how much better the shit on the show on the ship was versus what's on the planet. Like, I had to look up to see if this had more than one writer, because I was convinced while I was watching it that there had to have been 2 writers, and someone with talent was doing the stuff that was on the ship, and then, Jerry Taylor was doing what was on the planet.
Yes, her stench was all over this episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess in a way that we'll see, unfortunately, at the end. But let's knock something out first, and that is the best part of the episode.
Oh, you want to go best first, huh?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Let's start with the strength, and then we can just descend into the crap, and then just let her rip with as many ball kicks as we possibly can.
I mean, this is actual Season 3 production footage, right? This isn't like we did it at the end of Season 2 and we held it over. Like, this is top of the season, new season money, new production budget, and everything else.
Yes, that is my belief.
And from what I was reading on the Memory Alpha, they did Basics 1 not knowing what the resolution was going to be, and basically just went into the writer's room fresh 6 weeks after Basics aired and was like, okay, how are we going to fix this?
That's my understanding.
Well, they did not do a good job.
No, they didn't. This is the best they could do. And, well, you know what? Let's start with the good part, because there is just a fantastic 15-ish minutes here, and that is what happens on the ship. So when we last left our heroes, there were 2, count 'em 2, useful Starfleet people, kind of people, on the ship. The Doctor and everyone's favorite, murder pipe champion, Lon Suder. The Betazoid who can't feel feelings, who's gone through a lot of like kung fu training with Tuvok to get his murder impulses under control.
Yeah, a lot of Tai Chi.
And Suder got jailbroke by the suicide bomber Kazon guy, kind of on accident. And we saw him kind of crawling through the Jeffries tubes on the loose at the end of the episode. And the Doctor managed to sort of duck immediate detection and try and game plan a solution by turning himself on automatically some 12 hours later or something like that. So that's all that's left on the ship. And we get a ton of fantastic content between the two of them. First, you've got the Doctor. And what he does is something we have never seen on this show to date. And you know what that is?
Have AI actively contemplate violence.
I was going to say lie to Seska successfully multiple times.
Also that, yeah.
So Tuvok gets hot game run on him all the time by her. 24/7, 365.
Yeah,
Chakotay,
it's like Seska 50, Tuvok -2.
Yeah. Tuvok, Chakotay, too baby crazy to see straight. He's had some wins, but they've been like marginal wins that he had to get bailed out of by the rest of Voyager throwing Hail Marys. Janeway, who constantly makes terrible decisions, and that's why the ship got trapped, because she is the trap queen. Seska's got all these people's numbers. None of them can beat her. None of them can even successfully lie to her.
I'll throw Paris a bone on that one.
Paris does successfully kind of, I don't say lie, but so much as conceal his intentions in the one scene they do have. That's true. But the Doctor straight out hoodwinks her twice.
They dumbed Seska down a little bit in this episode. I think there are some real rookie mistakes she uses. Like if she comes in and she's got full use of the ship's computers, the fact that it's 12 hours that they're on the ship before the Doctor rematerializes and does basically a situation assessment and asks the computer, what is the current crew complement? And that's when the computer system says, well, you got like 80 some Kazon, which I really like the face palm he does when he hears what the enemy numbers are. And then, it identifies that there's a Beta Z. And that's when he figures out that it's Suder. And to think that at no point Seska would have been like, hey, computer, are there any members of the remaining crew here or anything else that, anybody else that might be on the ship that could be a problem? Like, that's a real oversight, I think, for someone as conniving as she is.
I completely agree. I also thought that was dumb. I thought it would have been so much easier for Suder just to pop into sickbay and have fooled that himself somehow. I mean, clearly we see just later on that he's got tricks like that.
Yeah.
But I loved where it started, which is the Doctor going into the mode that Seska would have remembered from the last time they interacted, which would have been, from her perspective, season 1.
Yeah, so she rolls into the sickbay and she actually calls him up because she wants her baby looked at with, the hot ship Federation technology. And yeah, he's completely indifferent to everything going around, or so she thinks.
Yeah, he plays up his essential lack of caring about who's in charge, that he's just an automaton there to do medicine, and therefore he doesn't care who's in charge of the ship, which it's him playing into Seska's expectations of what he is like.
It's also a really neat moment for the Doctor character because they have never really, they focused on his emotional growth and they focus on his exploration of his own wants and desires, and that, he's more than just a cardboard cutout, right? But they don't ever specifically address the fact that he has crew loyalty or a sense of family or anything other than a very professional relationship with the people around him. They don't say he doesn't, but they don't ever say, there's never like a transition episode that he does. And seeing him play the old hand really stands as a stark contrast compared to where he was, where we know he's at.
You are absolutely right. It's a great way to subtly yet quite specifically show how his character has evolved already, that he has an emotional attachment to his people, his family, his crew, and that he is aware of how far he has come and can assume his prior persona to deceive someone. All of that without addressing it directly in one scene.
When they bring, when he self-activates on that 12-hour mark and does that situational assessment, there's no internal conflict for him of like, oh gosh. His conflict is, how do I fix this? Not, do I care? Is this something that really matters to me? Like, he doesn't have to cover any of that ground. He's instantly like, he's playing for Team Janeway right off the bat. And his, like I said, his struggle is like, how am I going to possibly fix this? And what surprised me, and it's what, I just threw out there before, he jumps right into, how do I murder these people? What tactical databases do I have to access? Stop and think about this for a second. You've got AI that is, shackled by his Hippocratic oath or whatever. He wanted no part of the Tuvix business. Mm-hmm. He objected to it. And this dude wastes no time and just like, well, it's going to be necessary to murder things and get them off the ship. And how am I going to do that? And I was like, wow, that seems like quite the glaring hole in some programming there. Unless Federation has a provision that, push comes to shove, these ship systems can go murder time.
It could be. I mean, there could be that there's some part of his program that's allowing him to sort of unlock this capacity on the basis of an emergency.
Super not Federation.
It kind of addresses some of the stuff that we talked about, I think, with Threshold, which is he's confronting something he doesn't know how to do, which is, what do I do? Do I summon up holograms of Che Guevara? I'm a doctor, not a counterinsurgent.
As we've talked about before too, and I think there were some missed opportunities here. Certainly, we've talked about at length the power in the hologram technology that Voyager has given this show. The Voyager, writing room has given this show, to the point where you could just have dudes walking into sickbay and you could just materialize bullets right in their brain, or basically holographic cancer in their face. That is a
welcome to my death chamber. I've given you ass cancer.
Fucking gas chamber. Hey, dudes just walk in and there's a security field over the door, and now you're all breathing the Tom Paris lizard man cocktail. Like,
here, have some Tom Paris's lizard stank. They'll turn you into a gibbering, amphibian on the floor in 24 hours.
He could have infected the ship with cheese plague again. There's a lot of devious things I think he could have done, and I understand why they didn't, because ultimately you've got Suder in the cut waiting to play out. But I think it was kind of a scary moment to see just what the Doctor is really capable of in certain situations.
I wish they do, as the seasons progress, explore more and more of the Doctor as an AI, like very directly. And so I'm looking forward to those episodes. I don't think his capacity for violence is necessarily an aspect that gets the close lens in. But you're right. I mean, he moves straight to, I have to defeat these Kazon to win the day for my dudes. How am I going to violence them from here? And as if by some sort of epiphany, he thinks, okay, who's on the ship? And may ask the question, as you noted, and that there's a Betazoid. And he's like, wait, who's the Betazoid? And it's Lon Suder. And there's this look on his face of like, just the motherfucker I wanted to hear. Like, yes, we are in business.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a bad pick of people to be left behind.
He gets in touch with him on the communicator and ultimately covers Suder's tracks in the computer to make sure no one else can find him. And then says, get GTFO to sickbay. We got to huddle up and figure out what the fuck we're going to do.
Another interesting point here. The EMH has like massive command override authority. Wasn't there an episode where he got the Voyager command codes like entrusted to him?
Yes, there was.
What was it?
It was the episode when they were dealing with the nebula that was secretly filled with evil aliens, and Chakotay was like space ghosting.
Chakotay, Oregon Trail, Astro
Oregon Trail, yeah.
That was a good episode. Yeah, so he transferred that all back over. Do you think that at some point Janeway bumped up his security clearance to allow him to take a step this drastic? Like, stop and think how many times Data hijacked the Enterprise and how easy it was for him to do that. You would think at a certain point, Starfleet's kind of like, again, the AI scare or whatever, like maybe we don't just give these guys the key to the castle by default.
I assume that for the Doctor, maybe it was just a matter of something that anyone can request. So as long as no one noticed that he asked for it, like maybe his clearance isn't high enough to cover his tracks, but he can make the request to the computer, be like, hey, don't tell anybody that fucking Suder's here. And the computer be like, okay, I won't. And then, if Maj Kalo has the command codes and goes, hey, is there anybody here? And he goes, no. But you can see that someone's like asked that not to be revealed and be like, well, no, tell me that fucking shit. Like, it could be that kind of situation that like he doesn't have the command codes to override everyone from knowing, but he can put it like a fucking ghost, like a sheet over it.
Sure.
Like, no one look.
What was Beverly? Lieutenant Commander?
She was a full commander.
He was a full commander.
It was Troy who was a lieutenant commander, and then it was that whole thing in I think it was the 7th season when she promoted.
Oh, what? Yeah, you're right. It was 7th season. I don't know. I think maybe they're due to throw him something just to kind of cover contingencies like this. But
well, there turns out that there's episodes exactly about this later, so don't worry. Keep yourself locked in.
So he calls Suder to come down. Suder pops out the side hatch, and there's a pretty good exchange where, Doctor's already in business mode. Like, hey, here is what we're going to have to start doing to try and turn this thing around. And first is going to be acquiring weapons. And he sees that Suder's kind of like drifting off in the distance and not paying very keen attention. And the Doctor mistakes this detached look on Suder for, Islan pondering going AWOL and just taking advantage of this disaster to not be in prison anymore and go about his merry way.
The emotional depth that the actor that plays Lon Suder brings to the table in this episode is really palpable. Had to actually look it back up. Brad Dourif is the Chucky is.
Yeah.
He a lot's riding on his shoulders in these Voyager scenes that a lesser actor would not have been able to convey in quite the same way. And his detachment is, as he goes on to explain, not because he is considering joining up with the Kazon to get his freedom, but that he is recognizing that if they're going to get out of the situation, he's going to have to do things that he has tried so desperately to suppress and control in himself, and that is the capacity for violence. Because let us not forget, this is the crazy town motherfucker who murdered a guy just because he wanted to. Like, he has the Dahmer urge. Like, I wanted to murder someone, so I murdered that guy, and I don't feel bad about it. That's That was our introduction to Lon Suder. Like, all of the Maquis officers were like, he was a little crazy. He had a little bit of the murder eye in him, but, we were terrorists, so we were big, beggars can't be choosers. And it turns out he was really bad. And now we got a Lon Suder that is, as he goes on to explain to the doctor, feels close to overcoming being that guy. He's not there yet. He knows he's not there yet. He had a real awkward moment with the captain in the prior episode. But he can see the day coming. That's what he says. I can see the day coming.
I think that's my favorite.
I will be there.
That's my favorite line out of this entire episode, easily. It's not that, hey, I am at peace with myself. It's that he recognizes, he's got that self-awareness.
Yeah. That's what makes it so powerful.
And I think you've got a lot of different energy in this scene because Picardo, the EMH is very, like I said, very quick to get the wheels turning on this. And I think that Brad Dourif does a really good job creating this gravity well and just slowing the entire scene down to this very thoughtful pace where he's able to flesh these concepts out and really let you as the viewer feel this conflict he's got inside of him. And it comes across clear, and I would say it's very easy to feel some genuine pity for this character would be easy in any other hands just to kind of characterize as a jokey psycho laugh opportunity, and instead portray him as someone who gosh darn it really is trying.
Yeah, that he's flawed. He knows how flawed he truly is, and he can see so clearly how close he is to getting to where he wants to be. But now that's all going to be brought into question. The doctor is like, listen, bro, I'll be with you every step of the way, but we got to do this. It's just you and me. You don't have a choice. So he's not caring too much about the psychological well-being of Lon Suder. He wants to do the job and get his crew back home. And Lon Suder is going to be his agent in doing that.
I don't know, man. I don't think the EMH feels good about it. I agree that, he's got a can-do attitude and agenda that he pushes, but I think that there is a genuine recognition that there's some anti-medicine going on here. And he's got a line I really like. I think he drops it here, but it's like, we might one hologram and one sociopath may not be much, but we're all we've got to do the job, or something along the lines of,
Yeah, he says that there. Yeah.
One hologram or one sociopath. And it's like, that's a place that you wouldn't really think you would be in a Star Trek show.
It gets better from here, in my opinion. I know that conversation might have been your favorite, but it's the next sequence that follows that's mine. Because what happens is that Suder does the Maquis thing and starts to fuck with ship in the ship. And we see the Kazon and Seska trying to deal with the consequences of it, thinking that it's just like shit that's broken on the ship they didn't fix right, or it's just their incompetence, because the ship gets brought out of warp. And they're trying to figure out what's wrong. Well, Seska thinks there might be some kind of intruder, but she doesn't have evidence. And while this is going on, we've got Kazon crews that are starting to crawl through Jeffrey's tubes trying to see what's going on.
It really is an ideal situation for Starfleet at this point, because having, the lone agent of Starfleet to try and turn the tide against us be a very effective, very skilled, and very ultimately ruthless Maquis terrorist is, putting a little kid in the candy shop. And between the Doctor and Suder, they run hot game all over Voyager. And I enjoy the scene, like the chaos it's sowing, because the Kazon, they think they've won. So they're effectively creating infighting now as Seska's like rampaging through engineering. You got dudes like half in the floor, half out, trying to, pull apart relays and this and that, with exponentially growing problems of issues that look like it's stemming from a lack of maintenance being conducted by this Kazon crew.
End result of the chaos is that Suder gets his opportunity to take someone out as the limited amount of Kazon crew filter through all of the Jeffries tubes looking for problems. And they don't show him take the guy out. What they do instead is they show the Kazon crew member kind of going through Jeffries tube, and then they just show Lon Suder come into frame like in the wall next to it, as he sort of like eyes where this guy is, and he's got this look on his face of, I don't want to do this, but I'm gonna go do it. And then the scene ends. And the way they reveal what happened is that Suder comes back to sickbay. He looks a mess. Not physically, just like emotionally destroyed. And the doctor's like, oh, Mr. Suder, you've done a great job. You've done this. And the doctor suddenly realizes that Suder has brought home, like a cat has brought home the mouse he has caught and dragged this Kazon body, dead dude that Lon Suder evidently killed with his bare fucking hands, or maybe a pipe, and drag it back because he didn't know what else to do with it. He didn't want to leave it there. And then the way he says it is perfect to me. This is my favorite line, where he grimly says, now I have a weapon. Like, now I have the weapon you thought I needed to get. I got it.
You said he brought it home like a cat bringing home a gift. I was going to say, he brought that guy back like Lon Suder putting a dead body in a service Jeffrey, but that might be a little too specific to this scene. Suder is not doing good with this. He gets out, he kind of collapses and has like this emotional paralysis. Doctor tries to drug him up, and he's like, "No, I need to face the music on this one with a clear head." Guilt's weighing very heavy on him. It's a very plausible 180 from the Lon Suder that we saw, openly confessing indifferently to the murder of a Federation person for no reason. And during Seska's grilling of Kazon lackeys down in engineering, she sees a pattern developing here of how these systems are failing, and puts the order out, start doing a deck-by-deck sweep using Federation tricorders to try and locate these guys.
Yeah, that's ultimately what leads to Suder getting his opportunity to fucking get a guy.
Yeah, but the threat of these tricorder sweeps escalates things in the Maquis playbook to taking some sort of a portable radiation generator that will irradiate areas in ways that it will make tricorders unable to scan for life signs.
We should also point out that we had a bomb dropped by the doctor the first time Seska and the doctor talked. That is, the baby is not Chakotay's, and that is actually a surprise to Seska.
Not only is that a surprise to Seska, that is a surprise to Martha Hackett. This script apparently changed 2 or 3 times, and one of the last-minute changes to come was this Chakotay not the daddy thing, which seems like it got panned pretty hard by the crew, and it does feel like a huge cop-out that the entire premise of this fucking predicament has now been swapped after the fact. The baby does look very clearly human, and they, try to hand wave it away with well, we've never seen a Cardassian and a Kazon baby before. Like, of course it would look human. Like, what? And, really just gets Chakotay off the hook and more or less can create another bottle homeostasis situation where there's no lingering side effects of any of this stuff, because now, Chakotay is not going to be shoved in Worf's shoes of, hey, unintentional dad.
Yeah, maybe it's because they already have Naomi Wildman, Samantha Wildman's child. They didn't want to do like a second baby. I guess, I don't know. I agree that it seems weird that they decide to go the route of, hey, surprise, Seska, this really isn't Chakotay's kid. And then that's just kind of the end of it. It's not discussed from that point forward, particularly at the end.
I'll
Which
tell you
get
what
to.
else.
Again, which I'm going to fucking get to.
Yeah, but I'll tell you one other. Did you see the other script revision on this? Her baby was supposed to die.
Yeah, it was her baby dies and Seska lives, right?
There were a couple different ones, but the heavy lean was that they were going to kill the baby off to really, really punish Seska. That was Michael Pillar, who wanted to go for that, and Jerry Ryan and I think Berman were both like, no, that's too dark, and killing babies isn't what Star Trek's about. This was Pillar's last touch, like not touch, but this was the last actual Voyager episode that he was really involved in. And I think that's probably going to be for worse once Jerry gets a bigger slice of the pie here. But the whole baby thing's kind of wonky. I did enjoy watching Seska have to come to terms that, this guy she's been blowing smoke up his ass and, stroking his ego, that he actually is the real father, and she didn't, despite her best efforts, manage to conceive Chakotay's baby.
Meanwhile, they're starting to put together an actual plan because Tom, I guess we'll cover this briefly. Tom successfully got away in a shuttlecraft. There's one cool thing he gets to do in the entire episode.
Murder.
Tom Paris pulls a Top Gun.
Yeah.
He flies directly into the danger zone. Straight up, he's like, they have this shot where he is desperately trying to use a fucking wrench on some piece of the shuttlecraft to keep it together because he's just been fighting Kazon. And then another Kazon patrol vessel comes in and starts shooting at him. And he starts bitching and moaning how he doesn't have the time to deal with it. So he throws his wrench down and just shows how fucking completely shitty the Kazon technology is, right? Like, once and for all. This damaged, beat-up Type 9 shuttlecraft gets into the pilot's seat, throws the brakes on, gets behind it, and while continuing to bitch that he doesn't have time for this, just murders all of those Kazon. Just kills the shit out of all of them. Like, 4 phaser shots, blows it up, and it's like, all right, I'm going to go back to fixing this shit now that I'm done killing these people.
Pretty potent scene there, too. There's a lot of death in this episode, and, you start off with the doctor jumping right into murder bot mode. Tom doesn't strand these guys and leave them adrift or whatever. It's a pretty clear, like, fuck you, I'm not... Captain's not here to see what's going on. My hair is a mess. I'm very clearly cosplaying a murder hobo right now, and see you in the next life, motherfuckers.
He is just so tired of dealing with this shit that he is just going to kill anyone that gets in his way if he can justify it and complain about it, which is what he does. He eventually reaches the Talaxians that we covered in our last normal episode. Were never established to actually have a reason to want to help Voyager at all. In fact, Voyager's antics in using sensor hologram shit to make it look like they're helping and thus endangering them of reprisals would seem to be a reason that they wouldn't want to help.
Well, but they don't know. They don't know that they've been identity thefted.
That's true. But
and
he finds them.
Busted it out on him.
He does find him, and it's like, you have to help us. And the Talaxian commander's like, but I don't want to. That would be terrible and dangerous. And then Tom says, come on! And the guy's like, all right, fine. That is really all the interaction is.
Do the math here. The Kazon are already a huge threat to the Talaxians. The Kazon are arguably neutral. They didn't just genocide the crew of the ship that Tom was hiding on back in a lot or whatever, what was that episode? Whatever, when Tom was hiding on the Talaxian ship.
Right. Yeah, the detective snarf episode.
Yeah, so investigations. So you take all of the threat that the Kazon are to the Talaxians, Now factor in the fact that Voyager's not around to, help the Talaxians to whatever degree they may have before. And furthermore, Voyager is in the hand of the Kazon, so the Kazon are like 100 times worse, and openly broadcasting that they have, Voyager and that they are the baddest motherfuckers in the galaxy. Like, it makes zero fucking sense for the Talaxians to throw in with the huge losers Federation and risk, being conquered by these Kazon guys. Didn't the Talaxians get conquered once?
They did, by a alien race that essentially Hiroshimaed one of their planets.
I don't know if it was essentially. I mean, I think it was pretty clear it was specifically.
Yeah, it was pretty specifically. You're right. You right.
It's interesting though too to see that the Talaxians are able to operate autonomous because they got occupied after that, didn't they? Whatever. I don't want to get into fucking Talaxian galactic history. At the end of the day, it makes zero sense for these Talaxians to back Tom, some dude who managed to get away from the fight they lost, his hair all fucked up, stinking of death and murder. Like, Tom should have been like, no, thanks, but no thanks. See you later.
I agree. But they just go like, fine, sure, we'll help. Seems good. That's what happens. He ends up coming back with the Talaxians, and he radios in via codec to Colonel Hologram and says, hey, we got a plan. The plan is I need you guys to overload the backup phaser couplings, and you need to do it right when the fight starts. That's the plan. I'm going to do the rest. Do that. The Doctor gets the plan, and we assume relays that to Suder in some way, although I don't think see them discuss it.
No, and it's also worth saying that the message that they get from Tom isn't, a two-way video conference. Tom pre-records a message and hides it under some bogus Kazon signal.
So
Tom doesn't even know, by the way, that the EMH is even functional at this point, and that there's anybody on Voyager who is Federation friendly and listening to his desperate plea for help.
He basically just does it on the chance that it would work.
Yeah.
Eventually, Suder makes his way back to the Doctor, but what has happened in the interim is that Seska has figured out some shit is up, because her lackeys report back to her that the radiation signature they're detecting is making everything difficult, and Seska, of course, knowing all about terrorist tactics, having been infiltrating them for the Obsidian Order, says, that's an old Maquis tactic. We got a fucking problem. Marches down to the Doctor and sniffs out that he's somehow involved with what's going on, because he doesn't have the radiation generator that would be able to be used to create that signal. And the second, I guess you could say, boss moment of the Doctor for the episode is he manages to lie to Seska a second time in taking credit for all of the chaos the ship has undergone while they have been in command of it, without implicating that anybody was helping him. Including taking credit for murdering someone, which Seska readily accepts.
Well, based on the behavior we saw out of the Doctor at the top of the episode, yeah, sure. This dude's willing to fucking kill. Maybe she's aware of some Federation, some Section 31 protocols that you and I aren't. Yeah, I did like her saying, why did you irradiate the Jeffries tubes with this Maquis tricorder, cloak? And, his answer that, oh, well, how much manpower hours have I just wasted with you guys combing the ship needlessly?
The smug satisfaction that he takes in, like, yes, he gave me no choice in the fact that I murdered him. Yeah. I did like the hammy nature of it, that he's not maybe good at it, but it's working well enough in that circumstance.
And he also recognizes the fact that, the jig is up and that Seska's going to kill him one way or the other, which I think is why he really makes sure that he tries to pull as much blame onto himself. And in the process, successfully keeping Seska from wondering, is there really a second operator? And he sells it that, it was him. It was him, Austin, all along. And as she's leaving, she pops her head back into sickbay and says, "You know what? I'm tired of your bullshit." And she takes a shot at a server box on the wall that is, some part of the EMH control program, and kills the doctor.
Yeah, she just takes a phaser to the control panel. There's no discussion of any damage to the doctor as a consequence. It was mostly, I think, just to make sure he could be turned back on or what have you. But he's out of commission. That's made very clear. And
I think also at that point she removes all Federation. She super locks the systems on, which again it seems very sloppy for Seska that she would not have completely locked out all Federation access previously. But Suder comes back and tries to reactivate the EMH. His Federation, not that Suder should have Starfleet access at all at this point, being a prisoner, but it gets denied under this new Kazon protocol. And in the process, the attempt to summon the doctor that fails plays a what do we used to call those? When you're the dead man dead drops.
Oh, dead drops. Yeah.
So it plays this dead drop message from the doctor that's like, if you're hearing this, it means that I've been killed. While you were gone, we were contacted by Paris, and here is what we need to do to play along with a larger crew effort to recover Voyager. You need to go down and take out these weapon systems. I know this shit's weighing heavy on you. You're a real boss, and not only can you do the job, but I've already filed reports to go to Chakotay and Janeway when they get back on about, how exceptional you've been under duress.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the last pep talk that he can give, just to, here's a little, you can do it, buddy. I believe in you. You are the key to our salvation. The entire time, Suder has not looked comfortable with this, and this is no different. He does not like that he is left now alone to do this, but it doesn't stop him, because the very next scene, we see him come out of kind of a hideaway in the engineering section, and they start the scene by giving you this long panning shot to where he is, and then you can see there's a lot of dudes in engineering right now. And this is some boss shit. He comes out, kind of sneaks around a corner. No one's seen him yet. And he steadies himself, like emotionally, and then rolls in, and then just murders like 10 dudes. Like, boom, 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 boom. It's probably the most intense one man killing other dudes in Star Trek I've seen.
Full on killing, yes. This is the line from Samuel L. Jackson when you positively, absolutely have to kill every motherfucker in the room. The kill count in engineering has to be in the double digits at this point. If there is such a thing as space ghosts in Star Trek, this engineering deck has to be the most haunted place on any Federation ship. You've got everybody from Jonas to whoever Lon popped in the head, all these Kazon dudes. I mean, it is just a murder gallery. And yeah, Lon comes in hot, guns a-blazing, drops everybody in engineering before going over to this control panel for the redundant phaser systems and starts keying stuff in. But he didn't have the phaser rifle turned up to the highest kill setting because, unfortunately, one of these guys is still alive by the grace of stupid Jerry Taylor.
Yeah.
And he's able to take a pot shot and hit Lon in the back as he's keying in the sequence to complete whatever Paris wanted. And there he dies, slumped over on the floor. Yet another death in main engineering.
I do like that they give you a wide enough shot after he's done wiping everybody out that you can see how much dirt he just did. And he's still, again, broken, but he's doing his job. I guess it's worth pointing out now that the whole reason his character dies in this scene is that Jerry Taylor just did not want to use him again.
I'm going to read you a quote here because I think you really need to hear it to fully grok just how terrible this situation is. Michael Piller wanted the character of Lon Suder, whom Piller had created earlier in the second season, to survive the events of this episode, but Jerry Taylor was uninterested in further developing the character, who is consequently one of the many who die in the episode's final moments. Piller commented, "It's a real wipeout. Jerry never cared for Suder and had no interest in developing him any further, so there's no point in keeping him alive, and a dramatic arc is fully realized by having the death occur at the end of part 2, that it's a heroic sacrifice." According to Jerry Taylor herself, the decision to have Suder killed was made because the writers couldn't see how he could really be redeemed, and he was simply too difficult to integrate with the other characters believably and well. What a crock of bullshit that is.
Absolutely. That's infuriating to hear. That's infuriating.
Is Jerry Taylor an idiot? Is she a second grade reading comprehension? Like, if you got one person that you have brought up from the minor league crew selection here that I think really deserves to be fully integrated into the main cast and has earned a place as someone who is interesting and engaging and deep and thoughtful and a little outside the box enough that, they fulfill the promise of the Maquis conundrum, it's Lon Suder. And to just fucking squander him at this point, like, man, what the fuck?
Nah, man, I'm with you. It does feel like Jerry Taylor is part of a different show. I mean, this episode demonstrates how redeemable and interesting Suder could be. In fact, the fact that he would come back from being Jeffrey Dahmer to being this emotionally deep and damaged and, soul being sort of reconstructed. And she's just like, nah, fuck it. Let's throw it in the garbage. It sucks, but I am satisfied in the sense that they at least gave him as good an ending as they could in this episode.
And again, death in Star Trek, I think, carries a weight when you have fond characters you lose, and it does build a real consequence around it. But man, just like squandered opportunities, man. And, it's the same shit with the Vidians. And I think ultimately it's the same shit with the Kazon. You got something that seemed a little gimmicky at first. And by the end of the journey, you've fleshed them into fully realized Star Trek set pieces. And you just drop them on the floor and walk away from them for no clear reason to me. And it's the curse of Voyager, I think, just that failed achievement, that squandered opportunity.
Speaking of failed achievements and squandered opportunities, let's talk about the shit show that is the planet scenes.
Oh, you mean Land of the Lost? You remember that TV show? It was like I don't know, Saturday morning, whatever, and there was like a Ford Explorer that gets sucked off to Jurassic. Oh no, that's actually Jurassic Park. It's some sort of like family suburban that gets thrown back in time.
Yeah, and they talk about how they can't take the car anywhere because they keep running out of gas. I fucking love that show.
It's another dinosaur moment for Voyager with animatronics. Only instead of these ones yelling "Not the mama," they're brandishing dangerous crystal swords. And I don't know why the dinosaurs were after the family, but this Voyager planet side situations, I don't think any better in plot.
It's delightful though, and they're here once again trapped in sunny Southern California. And it's the same hillsides and caves that we've seen in like a half dozen other episodes in just the past season. And it's this planet that this crew has been left on. And what we get is, first, the most disappointing end to a character on this episode, which is saying something considering how Lon Suder dies.
Even before that, I want to talk about a couple things going on here. The crew just having freshly gotten its ass kicked by yet another hostile raiding party. Keep in mind, Voyager got its ass handed to it when the Vidians attacked the ship in Deathlock. I'm going to go ahead and scold Tuvok again for being so ill-prepared that Voyager keeps getting boarded and its shit pushed in over and over again. They get beamed down to the... No, they didn't get beamed down. They got dropped on the planet when they pulled that 37 stock footage of the Voyager landing planet side. And they get shoved out the door. You've got injured crewmen all over the face. I don't know if you saw the one Asian guy walking with it. He had just put like chocolate pudding slathered all over his face, and I guess that was supposed to be injuries or whatever.
Right.
Well, let it soak in. Like, this is the poor planning on Janeway. There's no medical treatment here other than Kess. You've got a crew of how many 300?
I think it's actually 151 or
Like
140.
148. And nobody here has any medical training except for Kess. Maybe the hot shot pilot who would have never had any business being in sickbay in the first part. Without your hologram doctor, you were completely doctorless, and I think the poor planning on behalf of Janeway and the rest of the bridge crew is fully realized here, where it's like, wow, we've really not done anything to improve our situation at all. And yeah, they're scavenging the planet side looking for shelter, food, and eventually some weapons. And you get this line out of Chakotay that's just like, hey guys, don't pressure yourself too hard. Sweating wastes water. Shut the fuck up, Chakotay. You waste ships. This is now the second time in a row. First, you wasted your Maquis ship. Now, because of you specifically, we have wasted Voyager. You've got no room. You and Janeway specifically have no room to try and lecture anybody stuck on this fucking planet's surface. And I want to point out here, they're in a lot of daylight. These uniforms look fucking terrible. And I know I keep circling back, and I know there's a lot of people out there that really like the Voyager jumpsuits, but with the command badges pulled off, like, they just look fucking cheap and shitty and terrible.
Yeah, something about the badges being missing really, for whatever reason, sets my brain off to looking at it like, something wrong about this. Yeah. What is wrong with this? But let's
so
get
Hogan.
to let's yes.
So you've got
I want to lead. I want go take this.
This is such a multifaceted shit cake. Okay, you've got Neelix, who is not Starfleet and not formally part of the crew, as he is not wearing a uniform, and he has been charged with taking Starfleet officers off to go scavenge for whatever. This drifting space cat survivalist jack of all trades, along with Hogan, who at this point has had some pretty considerable screen time over the past season, right? And I would say is a front runner for the most recognizable secondary cast member in the crew. And they find a big pile of bones in front of a cave. And Hogan's looking at it like, oh shit, that looks dangerous as fuck. And Neelix is like, snarf, snarf, snarf. Oh, look at this. We can take these dead humanoid bones that have been picked clean and turn leg bones into clubs, which alternatively could have been accomplished by picking up fucking sticks and rocks. But no, Neelix wants to be morbid and use, humanoid remains as this. It's very clearly that something bad lives in this cave, and this is where it comes and shits or pukes out the people it has eaten. And this is like a danger zone, right? And Hogan's just like, man, like, do you want all of this stuff? And Neelix is like, yes, collect it all. And then Neelix does what Neelix does best, and that is wander off and put people in incredible danger, whether it's himself or the people around him. And lo and behold, while Neelix wanders off to go answer someone's question, while Hogan's standing at the mouth of Death Cave, and we see the camera rush towards Hogan. Suddenly, Hogan scream, Neelix run back up there with no sign of him.
I think we need to re-emphasize what you've just said. Neelix literally says, hey, this probably means there's something dangerous in the cave. I'm going to leave you here alone to gather up these bones, a clear indication that there might be something dangerous in this cave. By yourself. Check back with you in a little bit. Good luck.
Flashback to me saying that Neelix is intentionally sabotaging the crew of Voyager for his own personal lulls.
Like, there's a scene right after this where he's like, it's my fault. And Stevie looked and said, yes, it is your fault, you stupid space cat, you filthy fuck. Yes, you got Hogan killed. You left him there to die in front of an obvious trap.
Neelix took Hogan by the hand to a section of floor where there is a big X painted.
Yes.
And hovering over the X is a grand piano being held by some dental floss. And Hogan's looking up at this piano like, dude, I don't know about this. And Neelix looks at the camera, does troll face, pats Hogan on the back, and then skips off. I wouldn't say Hogan's my favorite character by any stretch, but, you know, they're so picky and choosy about killing people in Voyager. And you jump back to the episode Alliances, where we had to fabricate someone who never mattered, who never existed. The old mining buddy that Chakotay had. And have him die. And that's what gets Hogan and Jonas all set off about, you know, Janeway's command style. But you just fabricate someone out of nowhere to act as this catalyst for basically an entire episode. And then here you've got Jonas that you've built up to, you know, a recognizable named character, and you just squander it on such a bullshit red shirt death.
Yeah. Yeah, why did you waste Hogan on this? Like, what
You got tons of extras all over the place. You could have put any other person there.
Fuck, another extra gets it later on in the episode. Like,
yeah,
at random. A dude with the worst fucking haircut I've ever seen on Star Trek.
I call that guy spear throwing science dude. But it just, yeah, Hogan's death is fucking terrible. So they scour the caves, and all they can find of Hogan is his spit up, torn, and bloody uniform. And Janeway proceeds to give one of her world famous hypocritical speeches, where she gets like hostile with the crew about, you know, no more splitting up. No more, you know, these caves are completely off limits. I don't want anybody near them. And this will be the last death in a very, very long time. So help me God. Rawr! You know, I'm not losing any more people here. You know, you better listen to me and shape up, guys. And it's like, what? This is your fault. Again, for the second time in 2 seasons, your choices, the worst choice possible, blowing up the caretaker station, walking into Seska's very obvious trap. You have stranded this crew helpless and fucked up and at the mercy of the elements around it. And then you're going to try and take the self-righteous pivot and spit back at the crew with fire and brimstone. Like, someone should have just busted her over the head with a giant rock and just killed her there flat and been like, you know what? She needs to go.
Off. Yeah, we're good.
There's only so many times we can let her put us directly in harm's way and expect us to fall in line, click our heels together, and say, sir, yes, sir.
Well, they don't do that. And instead, they continue to try and survive on the planet. And that's when they meet the locals. Now, these aliens, I describe them as cavemen with scurvy.
Yeah.
That would be the way I would describe them. They have the standard Star Trek, like, I'm going to have some fucked up shit on my face to prove that I'm an alien.
I got kind of a Nausicaan feel from them. The dudes who knifed Picard in the
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, kind of like a Nausicaan look, except they have this skin tint that makes it appear that they need to eat an orange.
They're jaundiced a little bit.
They're
And
a
their
little jaundiced.
I spent a long time thinking about what the hell these outfits look like. Ultimately, they're wearing a patchwork of like microfiber Swifter dry mops.
Yes. Yes, they can Swiffer the shit out of a floor.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
if you've got hardwood floors, you want one of these guys by. I will say, in defense of the planetside scenes, it does have a straight up laugh out loud moment.
Are we talking about Chakotay?
Yes. So they're trying to like start a fire, and they cut over to Chakotay going at a piece of wood with another piece of wood in the classic way you try and start a fire if you're a Boy Scout. And he's not doing very well. He's frustrated and he throws it down and straight up says, "Here you are, stuck on this deserted planet with the only Indian in the galaxy who can't start a fire by rubbing two pieces of wood together."
It was fucking. That's the standout moment of Chakotay potentially for this whole season. Is that self-awareness, self-deprecating humor.
I wasn't good at this when I was a boy, and I'm not good at it now.
And joking aside, here we have flustered Chakotay, who is not calm and rational and reflective. It's just him lashing out in anger at a situation. And he's interesting and he's good. And you're like, this guy feels like a real dude. And, I think the situation, and it sucks because this whole episode completely divorces itself from the fact that Janeway and Chakotay willingly walked into this. And, again, Janeway, who has exposed the crew to a second catastrophe, she said to Chakotay point blank, like, the entire crew has your back on this, what is very obviously a trap, and we'll all go along with you, and we all got your back. Like, the crew should be so stank at the two of them. And Chakotay, and we can say, all right, part of his frustration in this, should absolutely be that he has brought this all on, Voyager with his own poor decision making, but they never reflect on it. Janeway, Chakotay, neither of them are ever like, man, we really fucked up with this, huh?
Yeah, they just don't. They're I don't know how to describe it aside. They just don't have the self-awareness to sort of look behind them a little bit at their decisions.
It's like they try and completely just sweep it under the rug. The writers are just like, well, we don't want there to be any animosity while people are dying left and right and worms are eating dudes and it's just a gruesome, miserable planet of volcanic explosions, hostile cave people, and dinosaurs.
The arc on the planet is the most stereotypical Star Trek paint by numbers shit you could possibly think. The locals are straight up cavemen who have difficulty understanding or communicating with the Starfleet people and are hostile to them. Some extras get eaten by space monsters
that look terrible.
That look absolutely like shit.
For a second time, Hogan's death being the first Neelix wander off and cause a problem moment. The second being when Neelix wanders off and Kes goes to be like, hey, don't wander off. And then Kes gets kidnapped because she's chasing Neelix, who has wandered off.
That is correct.
That's 2 in 1 episode, man. Put a leash on this motherfucker.
And then ultimately there's a heroic moment where Chakotay is able to save one of the locals, and that of course brings peace and understanding between the cavemen and the Starfleet people as they try to escape a volcanic explosion. And so everything ends fine. It's paint by numbers, it's predictable, and the only two standout moments to me are Chakotay making fun of himself And the fact that your friend and mine, Smoldering Catcher Guy, gets his first line. Did you catch it? Did you see it? Did you see the magnificent acting that he did?
No, what's it? Does he talk?
I can't. How did you miss it?
Dude,
How did you miss this
I'm
moment?
face blind. Without the umpire vest, I cannot recognize this guy in the lineup.
Apparently not. I always see him. I always point him out, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Yes, for the first time he gets a line. So remember when they're talking about who can run fast, and fucking try hard Harry and Balana are like, Balana's like, I was on the decathlon team before I dropped out of the academy. My coach was so disappointed. And then they cut over to Smoldering Catcher Guy. He raises his hand and he says, yeah.
Was that really
That's it.
Smoldering Catcher?
That was Smoldering Catcher Guy.
Did he lose a bunch of weight at some point? Because I thought Smoldering Catcher was a little bit more beefy.
You know, maybe it was the angle. But that was Smoldering Catcher Guy. That was absolutely him, 100%. It's his first speaking moment on the show. And he says, yeah. He doesn't get a moment to, like, he didn't get the background line of, I was in the decathlon team in the academy. Like, we don't get to know anything about him.
He would have been perfect. He would have been a perfect pick to put in the Hogan death spot.
I mean, yeah, obviously. I mean, someone you've seen in the background and then he just goes out. Like, that. Not someone we really know. Like Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God, what a waste.
You find out that Tuvok taught archery at the Vulcan Science Academy. Oh, that was pretty funny, too, because he's like, hey, look, we made weapons. And Chakotay's like, I hope you didn't just assume I know how to use a bow and arrow because I'm Indian. And Tuvok's like, no, actually, you got a club. This bow and arrow.
This is for me.
Put away your outrage, Chakotay.
I did like the rather consistent dunking that everybody does on Chakotay being a terrible survivalist and stereotypical Indian.
I really like that, though. Like, you know, if there's one thing you can take away from Tattoo, it's that Chakotay has had a lot of exposure to this roughing it wilderness lifestyle, right?
Right.
And the fact he just flat out sucks at it in a world of the enlightened future where everybody has the time to be good at everything, him just having this fatal flaw of, I should be able to do this, and I'm not, I think is good character depth for him. At a certain point, like you said, there's a showdown with the cavemen. The cavemen chase off a Voyager crew who retreats into the caves where Hogan died, which have been declared off limits. They go in, cave people start lighting fires, trying to smoke them out. They press in deeper. You get some extended shots of the tunnel worm that has been eating the crew members, and it looks fucking awful. And it is a lot of screen time for this thing. And of course, there's this rickety bridge around the outside of the cave wall that they're going to have to cross to get past it. One of the crew guys that you say has a terrible haircut falls in and gets eaten. Like, what a bad way to die.
Yeah,
you know, there you are.
I think you deserve to die for that haircut, though.
You're a space dude. You know, you're not wearing a gold shirt. And just like yesterday, everything was cool. You were on a ship, and then today you fell in and a worm bit you and ate you in one gulp. Like, that's pretty crappy.
If you don't want to get eaten by a space worm, don't cut your hair by putting a bowl on your head and join Starfleet. Like, he had a straight up, like, Beatles haircut if it was done by a blind person. It was just so astonishingly bad, I couldn't stop looking at it. And he got eaten, and I'm like, good, you deserve that.
And ultimately, they don't even
got you for a reason.
They don't even need to go through the cave. Like, that's the other part, is that dude died.
They just run out the other entrance anyway. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Janeway shows up and they distract the cavemen away with their best runners, and then like Janeway and Kim and B'Elanna just kick all the fires out and call the crew to come out. In classic like 90s TV, this cave worm that moves like 100 miles an hour all of a sudden can't catch anybody and just kind of gallops as everybody sprints out of the way to safety. Stupid, whatever. Yeah, this planet side stuff is complete garbage. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Back up in space, Paris's little attack on Voyager works out. He, sticks around some blind spots. and the Talaxians plus Tom and the shuttlecraft are able to take some phasers offline. And now Tom's plan goes into effect because as they order the backup phasers online, something in the system, it's basically they took a potato and shoved it up the tailpipe. Something backfires in Voyager in what becomes a very, very confusing turn of events. They go to fire on the shuttlecraft with these auxiliary phasers. Like I said, Lon was able to cross some wires somewhere. And what looks like a static sizzle envelops Voyager, and they cut back to an interior shot, and everybody is moaning and groaning. There's smoke wafting in the air. Seska looks like she's just been in a car accident, hears her baby crying, and staggers off to Janeway's ready room to her baby, which is wailing. And this is pretty fucked up now because whatever happened, essentially they're saying electricity shot out from every panel on the ship and electrocuted everybody, which probably includes this baby. This baby just got zapped.
Well, I thought it was that it was a surge large enough to detonate all of the Starfleet regulation IEDs that are in all the panels. So, like, Tom knew, I got to trigger this because these Kazon dopes don't understand that the worst place to be near in an emergency is a Starfleet Elcar's panel. And therefore, that's what Seska dies of. Seska died of IED shards or whatever. And the baby's just crying because there's noise. You obviously know that.
I mean, yeah, and I get the joke, and certainly had they shown an interior shot of stuff blowing up, I could get on board with it. But really, all you see from the outside is just like electricity sizzling the ship, and then they cut inside and you just see everybody wrecked.
And you see a lot of stuff blown up, though. I mean, I understand they don't show the panel exploding in Seska's face, but I felt like they did enough that's what I interpreted, that she took a panel to the
figured that everybody got like Worf electricity shock, like where Worf's like, and then they just draw Raiden electricity all over him. And it's such a... I can't really wrap my head around it. Seska limps off. She goes to grab her child. She collapses. Then Maj Kulla comes in behind her, checks her pulse, determines that she's dead, picks up the baby, and then he tells everybody on the ship to evacuate ship for some reason because two Buster Talaxian ships and Tom Paris are buzzing around outside.
Well, they get notified they're being boarded by the Talaxians. They don't say how many. It does get that wrap it up, Charlie. We got to get this episode over with feel to it. Like they could have said, like, there's 200 Talaxians or something like that, which would have clearly outnumbered them. That would have been something.
Dude, I'm going in the trenches on this one. I cannot accept it. This is a real fucking Jerry moment here, okay?
It is.
You jump back to Maneuvers. Was it Maneuvers where... Yeah, Maneuvers, where Chakotay ends up on the planet with Nog.
I don't know if that was Maneuvers, but we certainly remember the episode.
And the whole point of that episode is that in Kazon culture, you go till you're dead. And even if it's an unwinnable situation, you fight and you go down swinging. So these guys willing to bail on the biggest trophy in the Delta Quadrant, Voyager, because some scrub-ass Talaxians are boarding.
Right.
And Maj Kulla's like tucking his tail between his legs and running off. And all of his subordinates are tucking their tails and running off too. And nobody's like challenging him and saying, you're a coward. I kill you for your honor. And now I'm in charge. Like, this flies in the face of like some real heavy world building that they did. And the fact that everybody else in the crew seems to be alive and able to move, except for Seska, who is the best character in Voyager, to become the second major tragic death of this goddamn episode, right up there with Lon Suder. Like, this is just some real bad storytelling. This is like the old DM for your campaign handed off the game to someone who used to play, and the first thing that new dungeon master is doing is killing off the 2 NPCs that made fun of him one time.
You said it yourself when you said that this was Pillar's last hurrah. This is Jerry Taylor getting rid of the shit she didn't want to deal with anymore.
And the shit she didn't want to deal with anymore was the good, interesting, deep glue that, turned season 2 into something really enjoyable in my eyes.
The half of season 2 that was watchable, you could directly tie to what they kill off in this episode. Like, if you eliminate the Seska episodes and Lon Suder's adventure, what's left of season 2 that was good? Not a lot.
Some Vidian stuff, which you already wrote off.
And a couple Doctor moments. Like, that's it. So, you're right. This is the new DM taking over, and she's killing off all the shit that isn't her creation, so she didn't want to continue it.
So the mystery red sizzle that only seems to kill Seska for whatever reason. Seska, who I have to assume, by the way, was sitting in the captain or the co-captain's chair, which only has one dinky console between them. So I would say, even if you're going to go with the Federation console bomb theory, unless she was like snuggling it, I don't see any reason why she would have died. The Kazon pivot in the complete opposite direction that we have been led to believe that their machismo honor would allow them to flee a fight. Talaxians raid the ship. Paris gets back at the helm. They fly back over to Land of the Lost, and for some fucking reason decide that they're going to land the ship in the planet again while volcanoes are blowing up, rather than just start scanning the surface and beaming crew directly onto the ship.
So, okay. As much as Seska's death and Suder's death were things that are going to hurt the show long term, in my opinion, the way that they perfunctorily closed the door at the end of the episode on both of them was even more disrespectful to me. Because once they get everybody on board, although no one is allowed to get a shower, so everybody's still got that Southern California grime on them. They have this real short scene in sickbay where they're like, yep, these 2 motherfuckers are super dead. We got this body laid out over here. It's Mr. Suder. Tuvok's gonna say, hey man, hope you have peace and death. And then Seska's over here. Chakotay's just gonna roll the blanket over her face, and that's that. It's just like, this is literally, hey, just in case you thought for some reason these guys weren't dead, let me show you real quick, they're really dead. Don't expect them to come back. All right, see ya. I fucking hated it.
And I know you said that, Seska manages to come back again at some point, and I'll look forward to however the hell that happens. I'm sure it's going to be some pre-recorded message in a booby trap to later thwart him, but...
you ain't fucking wrong.
It's a real... Oh, yeah, see, that's going to be, Jerry Taylor's depth of her storytelling is something I just offhandedly guessed.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
You just take everything I liked about season 2 and just fucking put an axe in it. Like, it's very clearly just exactly what you said. We are going to make sure that these characters are dead, and you can never have these things back that you wanted, no matter how bad you want it. And it's going to be the Jerry show from here out. So let's do a body count here for season 2. Jonas, who was comical, but whatever. He had some stuff going on. Hogan, Seska, Lon Suder, all of the Vidians, all of the Kazon, and ergo Maj Kula, who had really grown on me by the end too. Same. All stuff just left in the fucking wind. Like, what a waste. And I know the Borg are coming, and it's like, I really feel like this is a turning point for the show that I don't know if there was a lot of hate. We talked about towards season 2, some of the clunkers out there, that maybe there was just this echo chamber and this groupthink of, we can do no wrong, and all this garbage we're making is just awesome, and people are going to eat it up with a spoon. And they started to see like some of the ratings drop off, and we're like, oh shit, we got to start making changes or what? But
they made all the wrong ones.
I feel like they're making this decision like, we tried the Voyager thing. We tried the we tried to do too much new, and the viewers don't like new and they want traditional Star Trek, and we're going to break out the Borg and Romulans and all this other stuff I've heard about, and we're going to get back into traditional Alpha Quadrant shit, and the Delta Quadrant's basically a failed experiment. We're not going to caretaker escape out of here, but we're going to go back to basics. And all this experimental franchise-specific stuff is going to go away. And even though at this point we've pulled it all out of the trash and made it, good, it, fuck it, cut it, and we need to start making money and get advertising up.
I mean, I think the theory of the crime you're putting out there could be right. That they are panicking in light of dropping ratings. I think it's simpler than that, though. I think this is that the change in the guard is that somebody wants to do it their way. And they don't want to be saddled with ongoing storylines of shit that they didn't create. It's like, did you ever watch Doctor Who? They do this shit all the time. They do shit all the time when there's a new showrunner. They basically flush everything from the prior showrunner out the fucking airlock. And that's what's up.
Martha Hackett seemed pretty stank about, and she's careful the way she words the stuff in these entries or whatever in Memory Alpha, but I don't get it. And switching back into in character, kind of the cherry on the top of this episode is by the end of it, again, there is no personal accountability by Janeway or Tuvok for the rampant loss and carnage that they have put the ship through for ultimately something that was not even Chakotay's baby. Never at any point does Chakotay turn to the crew and say, listen, we just went through some real shit. We lost a lot of good people. And, I want to say thank you to all of you guys for backing me on this. Ultimately, it was a mistake. But it means a lot to me that you were willing to go through hell in support of me. And, it makes me appreciate my family here and blah, 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 feel good stuff. None of that.
Dude, they don't even acknowledge the baby. Like, the baby gets taken off by Cullen, and at no point does anyone tell Chakotay or anyone else the baby wasn't yours.
You don't even get a reaction video. You don't even see the doctor be like, oh, you'll be happy to know that that's not your child after all. How good would it have been if Chakotay had a chance to snatch the baby up, knowing it's not his, feeling guilty that, all this shit went down, feeling guilty about how, Seska died because in the end he did have feelings for her, and knowing that, he'd rather have this child grow up in civilization instead of some warmongering culture under Cullen's supervision.
I'm done with this. It's pissed me off too much.
I thought I kind of liked this episode, after I finished watching it, but when I really started looking at the notes and talking to you about it, there's so much bad shit going on here. All the solid Suder stuff is pretty cool, but everything of real consequence that moves forward past this episode is just completely tainted.
You are correct. I think the solid Suder stuff is so good that I think it saves the episode from being bottom 5 material.
Yeah.
But that's the best I can say about it, is that because of that part of the episode, this avoids being total garbage and is instead merely bad.
I wouldn't say it's total garbage from it watching. It's entertaining or whatever. It's the out of character behind the curtain stuff. There's some real deep cut fuck yous, and it's infuriating. Fuck Jerry Taylor.
So what are we watching next week, brother?
All right, man. We're going to be moving on to Season 3, Episode 2, Flashback. Captain Janeway participates in a mind meld with Tuvok, reliving his experiences on the USS Excelsior under the command of Captain Sulu.
I'm not looking forward to this one. You know why?
Because they take perfectly good Trek and fuck it.
Yes! In fact, they take my favorite Trek, Star Trek VI, the best Trek movie there is, my very favorite piece of Star Trek that has ever been created, and they fuck it into the dirt, Peter. That's what we're doing next week.
Is this the 100th episode or something?
No, this is the episode they did
Or
for
50th
Trek's...
anniversary or something?
Yeah, this was the anniversary show, so we'll get into it when we talk about it, but it was... I think it's worth talking about when we're talking about the episode, what was happening in Trek at the time, what DS9 did, and what Voyager did. And let's just say I can't wait for all the wrong reasons.
I feel like Jerry Taylor is trying to build a strip mall over a Indian burial ground.
Well, if we wound up being overtaken by some kind of vengeful spirit of Star Trek's past, we'll know that that was true.
Man, how good of a space ghost would Lon Suder be?
You got a rule of acquisition?
No.
All right.
I'm too butthurt right now.
All right.
They killed two of my favorite fucking characters in completely buster ways.
They really did.
They might as well
really did.
No, I'm not going to make that joke. All right, man.
Thanks for listening to V'ger Please, the Hateful Voice through the Delta Quadrant. We'll see you next week while I spurg out and hate everything that we do. Peace.